Hey, hi, Grandma.
Hi.
All right, we'll start with the first of the book. Okay, so
Show
tell.
the cover of the book.
Oh, this is the cover. It says, "My grandma in her own words."
Oh.
That's probably what the sense I gotta get.
All right, what is your full name
Gwen Marie Miller Barchi,
and your date of birth?
May 3rd, 1930.
And where were you born?
Sharon, Idaho.
Okay,
In
and
my grandmother's living room.
really? I did not know that. What was your mother's full name?
Ellen Dunn Miller.
And her birthday, if you remember.
Of course I do.
Of course you do. Sorry.
February 19th, 1904.
Where was she born?
In Bennington, Idaho.
I don't even know where that is.
It's between Montpelier and Georgetown,
Oh, okay.
Bear Lake County.
Bear Lake County, okay. You said 7th of February?
The
9th of February.
19th of February.
19th February 1904?
Yes.
And your dad, what was his full name?
Albert Ellsworth Miller.
And his birthday?
September 2nd, 1904.
And where was he born?
Pocatello, Idaho.
Where's that?
Sorry.
Okay, let's see. What are some stories about your own grandparents? Like if you remember where they were born or remember what they looked like or their personalities?
Which pair do you want to start with?
Whichever one you want to start with. Let's start with your mom's. So Grandma Miller.
Okay. Her father was Crandall Dunn. And her mother was Ida Jane Wright Dunn.
Right. The WRIGHT?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think she was born, I'm not sure where she was born. I think it was probably Bennington.
Grandma Barchi?
No,
Mhm.
Grandma
Right.
Miller's mom.
Grandma Miller's mother.
Mm-hmm.
Did they came over, had they been here in the United States for a while? Your grandma and great grandma?
My grandma was born in Bear Lake County. I should go get my book.
Oh, it's okay.
And you've got her name. Where are we at now?
So what do you remember about your grandma, your mom's mom?
She was so fun and loving, and I remember one of my fun memories of her is she was in the back seat of our car, Burns and my car. We were taking her over to see my parents, and Grant was a baby, and he was standing, this was before the days of safety, you know. He was standing in the front seat looking back at her, and he would laugh and she would laugh, and he would get the biggest kick out of her laugh, and so he'd laugh again. They just played this game all the way from Georgetown to
Oh my goodness.
Sharon.
Oh, that's cute.
She made wonderful bread and strawberry jam.
Was she small, like Grandma Miller?
She was, yeah. Yeah, they were pretty much the same body type. And one summer when I was 16, and I have a cousin Jane who's just 2 months younger than I am. And that summer, the two of us lived with Grandma for about 6 weeks and picked strawberries in Lewis Monk's strawberry field and earned money for our school clothes.
What? Nice.
And that was just fun. We'd come home hot and dirty and tired from being out in the sun, bent over picking strawberries.
Yeah.
And Grandma would have a loaf of bread she'd just taken out of the oven and homemade strawberry jam to go on.
Oh my God, it
Sounds delicious. How about your mom's dad,
Crandall Dunn.
Crandall?
And he was the kindest man that ever lived. He didn't live as long as Grandma. He died when I was 10 years old.
Oh.
They called it dropsy then.
What do they call it now?
What, tuberculosis?
What?
What is dropsy?
It was
Or cholera?
a heart.
Oh,
Disease.
congestive heart failure.
Yeah,
okay.
congestive heart failure.
Oh wow. So he was pretty young then. If you were only 10, because you were born in 1930.
30. Yeah, so he
Yeah,
died
he
in
was in his 40s.
September. I'm almost sure it was September of 1940.
And did your grandma ever remarry?
No, she didn't. They had 9 children, 5 girls, and then 4 boys.
Did they all live to adulthood?
Yes,
Wow. That's impressive.
they did. I think the first one who died was Aunt Hetty, who was the second of their children. And she passed away when Grant was less than 2 years old. And he stayed with one of my mother's cousins while we went to the funeral, which was in Grace, Idaho.
Mm.
And Aunt Hetty was the kindest person. She'd do anything for you. And when Jane and I think it was that same year, Aunt Hetty and Uncle Clyde took Jane and I to Yellowstone Park.
That summer when you were 16?
Uh-huh.
Fun.
That was my first trip there.
How about, so Crandall, so do you remember how Crandall and your grandma met?
No, I don't.
Okay. How about Albert's parents? What do you remember about them?
His mother, Hannah Crossley Miller, was the grandparent I spent the most time with, because she lived actually we lived in her house while my dad was building the little house over on the next little rise west of her house.
I didn't realize that your dad built that house.
Yeah, he did. And then when we moved, the Barchi family bought it and moved it up to their place, and it was the first home for Dean and Shirley Barchi.
Oh, cool.
And then when they actually moved, and Twyla and Tobe bought it and they moved it to Lanark.
Moved the whole house.
The whole house. It was just a 3-room house, and then they later added on to it. And Vern's sister Twyla and her husband lived in it.
Huh.
Until
I did not know that.
till her husband passed away. So
Albert, so your dad, so do you remember his parents' names? Well, you did.
Hannah, yeah.
Hannah, and what was the
His
dad's
father's name was Albert Ellsworth Miller, also.
name? Oh, okay.
And he passed away when my dad was 16, I believe. 16 or 17.
February of 1923.
Okay, February of 1923.
And my dad had to quit school and take over the farm and support my grandmother as
Yeah.
well as us.
And how many kids did Clive or Albert and Hannah have?
They had 4.
Okay.
They had 3 boys, George, my dad, and Ephraim, and then they had a little girl whose name was Irene. And when she was 6 months old, she and my grandmother had typhoid fever, and the baby died.
Oh dear.
And fortunately, my grandmother didn't,
Mm-hmm.
and she lived.
How old was Hannah when she passed away?
Well, she passed away when Sharon was 2 months old.
Okay. I can do the math later.
About 1959.
And Sharon was born in 1959.
Okay.
And she and my grandfather and the baby and my great-grandmother, my grandfather's mother, are all buried in the Montpelier Cemetery.
Oh, okay.
And
That's where your dad's buried too, isn't it? Or is he buried
Yeah.
here? Or in
my
Pocatello?
parents are there, and his parents, and the baby girl, and his mother. So,
Okay.
Sharon and Carolee and I think it was. Sharon was there. We went, the last time I was in the Montpelier Cemetery, and my great-grandmother, Irene Miller, her gravestone is very low in the ground, and the grass had grown over it. You had to pull it back to see her name on it. And so I know that Drew, you know who Drew is?
Mm-mm.
Al's second son,
Oh,
my
okay.
brother's second son.
Mm-hmm.
His wife's family is from Bennington, and I knew that he was up in that area quite a bit. So we took pictures of the grass all grown over it. We didn't have anything with us to do anything about it, but I sent him pictures and asked if, when he went to Bear Lake, he would go to the cemetery and clean that area up. And he recently sent me pictures of what he had done.
Oh, nice.
So you
That's
can
nice.
read the names on the gravestone. And then he sent a picture of Aunt Irene's headstone that has a little lamb on it, and wanted to know who that was. And so I explained it all to him,
Fun.
and he said he was really glad to know that he hadn't realized all those relatives were buried there.
Yeah. Well, that was very nice of him to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, what are some family heirlooms or mementos that you've kept over the years, and why are they special to you?
Well, I have a couple of bowls out in my cupboard that were my grandmother Miller's. And I have a pair of, I don't know if they're bronze bookends of an Indian head that I always, you know, they were my grandmothers, and I've seen them all my life, and your father has dibs on them when I'm gone.
Nice. Or do you know where your grandma got them from?
I don't.
That
They
would
were
be
just
interesting.
part of Grandma's house.
How, just part of her house?
Carol Lee has her cracker bowl.
Yeah, I remember that was the only thing she wanted was that cracker bowl.
I don't know that I've
It's
seen that.
blue pottery. She has it
Oh,
on display in her
Yeah,
living room.
yeah, I remember now.
But it always held saltine crackers when it was my grandma's.
That's cute.
That's pretty old, isn't it? That's your
Grandma's.
your grandmother's.
Yeah.
So yeah.
She was
That'd
born
be-
in 1881. Both of my grandmothers were born in 1881.
Were they born around here?
No,
In Idaho, I'm
they were
assuming.
In Idaho somewhere though.
in Bear Lake County.
Yeah.
The icicles on the Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm. The glass icicles.
Yeah, who were those from?
My grandmother Miller.
Hannah?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
And you know who inherited those.
Yes, I do. And I love them. And I'm the only one that can put them on the tree because I don't trust anybody else.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
All right. What was your relationship with your parents like? And did you have any special relationships with other family members?
That's an interesting question. I loved my parents. My dad was my hero, and he always will be.
What was
was-
he? Oh, go ahead.
Well, ask your question. Maybe that'll help.
Well, I was just thinking, what was he like? So I know that he has a farm. So did he do other things besides farming? Like, did he have any hobbies or like go bowling on Wednesday nights or something?
Rachel, you don't know anything about that era, or
Nope, I don't. What was life in the 20s like on the farm, or the 40s, I guess?
Well, I can tell you about the 30s. That's when I came on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
It was good, but it was very different from the world we live in today. We grew most of what we ate. There was always a big garden, and my mother took care of it, besides having 5 children and taking care of them. And the church was a big part of our lives. My dad was a counselor in the bishopric when he and mother were married. And when I was...
He was in his 20s then. Grandpa Miller was.
When he was in the bishopric, he was
Uh-huh.
in his 20s.
Yeah, he was, 26 when I was born. So he was a counselor to Bishop Gambling, and the Gamblings had a son who was the same age as I was. His name was Grant, and he died when we were 8.
Oh, how from? What from?
I don't remember what the cause was, but Bishop Gambling committed suicide,
Oh dear.
and then my dad was made bishop.
Oh, that's awful.
And how long was he bishop?
Well, I think I was 8 when he was made bishop, and he served until I was in college, which would have
Wow.
been 17 years.
Oh my goodness. And had a
Well,
farm on top
no,
of
that's
that.
not right. I was
Oh, okay.
17 when I
Well,
went to college.
still. That's almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And then wasn't he a counselor in the bishopric to the new bishop? When he was released from being a bishop, did the new bishop call him to be a counselor?
I don't remember.
I believe so.
Well, yeah, he had been a bishop for 10 years. They didn't want to cut him loose.
So he was a bishop.
We need your resources.
He was in the bishopric from the time he was 26 until
I was
Yeah.
17. So he was in the bishopric 4 years before I was born.
Yeah, and then the bishop for 10 years, and then a counselor for another.
I remember when he was bishop. You want me to read both of us? You want me to shut up?
No, it's fine. If I need details, I'll give you a call. So what kind of stuff did your parents grow on their farm aside from the garden?
They had wheat and hay for the cattle.
Did they have cattle too?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And pigs and chickens.
Oh wow. Did you ever help your dad slaughter the animals?
No, I helped my mother with her end of it.
Fair enough. You did have some brothers, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
We castrated the calves.
You liked that? That was, yeah.
That was good.
Dad helps out on the farm. Did he sell the grain too, or was it just what you guys would use?
Well, he would keep some of it. Some of it went to the mill in Montpelier to be made into flour for us. And of course he raised the meat. We always had beef and pork and chickens.
So how did he make a living? Like, what was he selling things or?
Well, he would send the cattle when they were ready to market.
Oh, okay.
He had a dairy farm, a dairy operation.
Yeah,
And
hence the big red barn.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't.
Although
I
it was
didn't realize.
not that in the year. There was a
he's,
little brown wooden barn before the big red one.
Yeah.
And he built that big one himself.
Wow.
and he sold eggs.
Yeah.
Sold eggs from the chickens.
Yeah, he'd take big crates of eggs to the grocery stores in
took-
Montpelier.
He took some to Preston too.
What
when he
was-
could get there?
What was wintertime like
Hard.
when you were little?
The thing you need to know about my dad is that he never saw anyone in need that he didn't help. There were, living where we did, winter times were challenging and people would get stuck. Often young people coming home late at night in a snowstorm.
Mm.
And they would come up to our house and knock on the door and ask for help, and my dad would get up even if it was in the middle of the night and harness the team and go rescue them. Their family lived farther up the lane, but he was right there close.
Yeah.
And no one ever came that needed something that they didn't go away with part of my dad.
I miss those guys.
Yeah, he was the kindest man. And I remember when I was that freshman year in college, I had a date for a dance and it was a formal dance. And when I went home and told them, my dad took me to Montpelier to the Sally shop, which was the most expensive, finest clothes you could buy in that area, and bought me a new gold formal.
Oh, fancy.
And then, after we got the dress, he said, you need a necklace with that. And he bought me a string of pearl jewelry.
Bless his heart.
Yeah.
And I know he had the cash to pay for it, but I know he had 90 other places he could have used that money. But
where did you go to school that year, or in college?
I went to Utah State.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That was close, huh? Did you live in Logan, or did you?
I lived with the family. Who were originally from Star Valley. The Tolmans, Eddie and Val Tolman. And I tended their children, and I cleaned on the weekends, and then we paid them $30 a month on top of what I could do for them while I was there.
Oh, wow.
They were good people. They had 2 children, so it wasn't
Not too bad.
too bad.
What about your relationship with your mom?
It was good. It was a little harder. Mom was more of a disciplinarian. And she was patient with me.
I can't imagine you were much of a troublemaker.
I just, there's one story she used to tell about Al and I, the difference between us. She said, I'd ask Gwen to do something, and she'd say, okay, I will. And she'd just keep reading her book. And I'd ask Al to do something, and he'd say, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And all the while he was doing what I had asked him to do.
Oh, that's awesome. So did you get in trouble for forgetting to do chores?
No, I don't remember that I did. It's interesting. I wanted to have more of a touchy-feely kind of relationship with my mom, but she wasn't put together like that. We were quite different. But there was never anything but love.
Mm-hmm.
Just different personalities.
Mm-hmm. I remember she would do the tatting needlework.
Oh yeah, beautiful tatting.
Yeah, I still have some of her doilies. Did she do other like sewing or other projects?
Oh yeah, she made all my clothes. And the boys' shirts and
so you were born in 1930, right? So how did the Depression affect your parents? It seemed like they were pretty self-sufficient, so
they were hard workers.
Yeah.
They were very conservative. They didn't waste things.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so honest. And so willing to help other people.
Oh, do you remember when they were married?
Yes, they were married the 26th of June, 1929 in the Logan Temple.
Logan. Okay. How about, do you remember any uncles that served in either of the wars, or heard about family members in the First World War, or any family members that served in the Second World War?
My father-in-law served in the First World War. And some of my mother's younger brothers served.
So, Vern's dad was in the First World War?
Mm-hmm.
What did he do? I don't remember.
He was a farmer. Their farm was about 1.5 miles up the road from my dad's.
Oh, I know he lived in your neighborhood. I mean, what did he do was he in the Army? The Navy?
Yeah, it was the Army.
Do you know what he did in the war?
I don't really remember.
Oh, that's fine.
I was
I'll
probably
talk to you
the
about it
infantry.
later. That's another video. Okay, sorry, I got curious. All right, let's see. Places you liked to play growing up. So when you were little, where did you like to play?
I played out in the front yard. I was trying to remember when we lived in the little house that my dad built before we lived on the farm. I remember I had a friend, Lois Smith, whose family lived over by the creek, just farther up the lane, and she would come over and we would play. But
What about high school?
High school was fun. I had a couple of good friends that we did lots of things together, and rode the bus every day. Would pick me up at the bottom of the lane. And
Oh, wait, wasn't your mom a teacher
yes, she was.
in the grade school?
She taught in the grade school in Sharon. She taught first, second, third, and fourth grades, all in one room. And then later on, she taught in the school in Paris for a while, a few years,
How far away is Paris from Sharon?
about 10 miles.
Oh, okay.
Did she teach at the school in Ovid?
You know, she might have done 1 year.
I think she taught Dad in the school in Ovid.
The one that's not there anymore.
No, it's there.
It's there. I've seen it. I remember that one. What are some of your favorite family meals or recipes?
Trying to think. Trying to think if I still make anything that Mother made.
Did they stay more with recipes that they brought from the old country, or did they have their own Americanized recipes?
I don't know how many of the things Mother made were handed down from her family. We ate what we raised.
Yeah.
And this was back in the day before refrigeration. And in the wintertime, they would have a huge piece of meat in a gunny sack kind of thing, flour sack, and it would hang on the back of the house and keep frozen, and then they'd get it down and cut off what they needed and hang the sack back up on the north side of the house. We had a cellar, a dugout cellar in the backyard. You went down 5 or 6 steps, and then there were shelves down there, and all of the canned goods went down there. It was low enough that they wouldn't freeze.
Mm-hmm.
It would keep the root vegetables good all winter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think kids today would go nuts at what was required of the children,
Yeah.
back in Grandma's day. Could you see your sisters or your kids getting up today and helping with breakfast and then helping with, and whenever we'd go out to visit my Aunt Rose, they lived in Territon on the sheep ranch. And whenever we'd go out there, she would be up at 6 o'clock in the morning making breakfast. And they had apple pies and scrambled eggs and bacon like galore. And fresh toast and, everything. Put it all away. And then at noon, they were all back in for the
Got it
same
all
stuff. Roasts and stuff, and then they'd finish up for the day and come back in for another meal. She was cooking and cleaning all day, just in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I often wondered how the house kept getting clean. That must have been Elaine's and Kathy's.
So yeah, so if your mom and dad were so busy, but your mom still taught school. So were you and your brothers and your sister older when she was teaching?
No, she started teaching soon after she was married. She was in fact, she was
okay.
teaching in the school in Sharon and boarded with my grandmother, my dad's mother.
Mm-hmm.
So before they were married.
So is that how they met?
I
Or did
think
they know
so.
each other before?
I think that's how they met. And my grandmother taught Al and I at home while my mother was teaching in the school.
In the school.
And so when I started school, I had already done all the things that the first graders were doing. So my mother moved me into second grade.
So that's how you graduated early?
Yeah, that's why I was a year ahead of my age group.
Nice.
And some of it wasn't so nice. When I got moved into second grade, I had the desk in front of Margene Prescott. And she would poke me in the back with her pencil and say, "Just because your mother is the teacher."
Awesome.
But Margene and I were good friends.
Oh, good. What
And I never did tell my mother about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny. What were your favorite subjects in school?
Math.
Math?
Uh-huh. I've always loved numbers.
Yeah, I liked math too.
Did you know when you went to university, did you know that you wanted to do dietetics, or were you just doing general stuff?
I started out with dietetics.
Oh, okay.
The strange thing is, the first year of that discipline at Utah State had no foods or nutrition classes. I had sewing classes and
Of course.
Oh, the
all
important
sorts
stuff.
of other things, the math and And then I switched to nursing and came to the University of Utah nursing program and lived up in the cottages where the parking garage for LDS Hospital is now. There were a row of cottages for the...
Did you get your nursing degree?
Get what?
Did you get your nursing degree?
No.
No.
I went to, was it 1 or 2 semesters, quarters they were then, and went home to get ready to be married. So that was a year and a quarter of college before I was married.
Oh, so you attended the U, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, for 1 quarter. And then we got married, and that was the end of my formal education until I was 44, when I started out in the foods program at Idaho State. And
What made you want to do dietetics?
well, that's what I had started out in the beginning, and then when I went to ISU to go back to school, I knew someone who was working in that department and could get some information about it, and that was Esther Williams, you remember.
Oh, yeah.
Her grant. And so I just, looked into the program to see what, and I liked what I saw. So I started out part-time, and then the next year I got into a full-time program.
And the rest is history. What do you miss most about being a kid? And it could be a specific activity or perhaps a feeling that you miss.
What do I miss about being a kid, or what?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a much different sense of responsibility.
Yep, I kind of saw that one going. Exactly how I
but
was.
still, it seemed like I had responsibility
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of things. And
Like what? What were you responsible for as a child? What kind of chores?
well, I learned a lot about good housekeeping from my mother. And my chores were varied because I spent a lot of time in the fields in the summertime. I loved the horses.
Were you good at riding horses? Did you enjoy riding horses?
Yeah, it was a necessary thing, if you're going to get the cows up to the other field, you get on a horse and take them. And I loved my dad. It was nice to work out in the fields with him. And I never did milk a cow. My mother said that's not work for women. Women are not going to milk cows.
Oh, serious?
Yep, so I never did. I worked inside with my mother.
So, what is your earliest memory?
My earliest memory is being outside west of my grandmother's house. My uncle was holding me, and we were looking over to where my dad was building that little 3-room house for us, and he was up on the roof shingling it, and my uncle was holding me. That's my first memory.
Which uncle?
Well, Uncle George and Uncle Ephraim were both there, and I think it was Uncle George that was holding me.
You were the oldest grandchild, right?
Yes, in
Okay.
that family, in
That
the Millers.
family.
And I have very few cousins. Uncle George and Aunt Frankie had 2 daughters. They're both still alive. One lives in Wisconsin, and the other is in Florida and is losing her memory a bit. She's having, but she and I correspond on Facebook, not Facebook, but Messenger.
Oh, good.
And I remember Aunt Frankie brought the 2 girls out to my grandmother's a couple of times when we were small. And then Elaine came to visit before she was married. She'd been living in San Francisco, I think, and she came to visit. You remember when she came, don't you, Grant?
Yes, I do. Her boyfriend sent her a telegram, and I was the only one home when it came. And I was just so, oh my gosh, a telegram.
Telegram.
We heard a telephone,
Yeah.
a telegram, and I opened it and read it, and then put it back in, trying to make it look like I had it.
What did it say?
Oh, I don't remember, just miss you, or, boyfriends, girlfriend stuff.
That's hilarious. Who is Elaine, a cousin of yours? Or
Yeah,
an
she's
aunt?
a first cousin.
Oh, okay.
She's Uncle George's daughter, and he's
Oh,
my
okay.
dad's oldest brother.
And then Ephraim, how many kids did he have?
They had Marilyn and just one daughter, and then they adopted a girl when she was a teenager. But I haven't.
Oh, is that Jean?
Jean Marie. But I haven't kept in touch with her after Uncle Ephraim and Aunt Myrtle both died. And Marilyn is in a care center since her husband died. It just.
I haven't talked to her since he died.
Is
How's
she
doing?
still in Pocatello?
No,
Oh.
she couldn't live alone anymore. Her memory is not good.
Oh, is that?
And losing Dean just sort of took a lot from her. And she stayed with Susan and Mark while Dean was in the hospital. But after he died, she just wasn't able to handle it, and she's in a care center here in the valley somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Because they tried keeping her with one of her daughters, but it wasn't possible.
Yeah.
So, and those are the only cousins I have on my dad's side of the family. Are those?
Did your mom have a bigger family?
Yes, Mom was one of 9 children.
Oh, that's right.
And there are, Jane and I are the only grandchildren that are left in the valley. Well, and Shelley, who's the same age as Grant, is still here, and then Uncle Drew's two of his daughters are still here. Catherine and Judy. And we get together for lunch. We did before COVID. We haven't since. And then our daughters come with us.
Oh, that's right. Your cousin lunch.
Yeah.
Lunch with your cousins. Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. Were you afraid of anything when you were a child? Or when you were younger?
I can't remember ever being afraid. I suppose I was.
Like, did your brothers put spiders in your bed or anything?
No, they wouldn't dare.
Yeah, they were younger brothers.
I don't think it would stop Sam, so
No.
One of the fun things I remember, you know, there were 2 bedrooms upstairs in our house at the time before they built onto it. And on Christmas Eve, Al and I concocted this plan. We were both afraid that the other one would get up first on Christmas morning. And so we got a spool of Mom's thread and we tied an end to Al's big toe in the one bedroom and strung it over to the room Ann and I were in. I don't know if Ann was part of the family yet by then or not. I don't think she was. But then we'd tie the other end of the thread to my big toe so that if one of us got up, the other one would know about it. Well, we didn't sleep very well. And when we decided it was time to get up and we got dressed, got the little boys dressed, Taft and Ted, who were pretty small, and presented ourselves down at the bottom of the stairway. And when our parents heard us and got up, it was 3 o'clock in the morning.
I've had enough of this. Let's just get up.
And so they let us see what Santa brought and open some gifts, and then we were sent back to bed.
Did you have a favorite toy or a favorite activity when you were little?
You know, I can remember a couple of dolls, but dolls didn't really enthrall me. And my mother said that it was quite an exercise to keep clothes on them. She said, and she'd made doll clothes for me, but my most fun thing was taking the clothes off from them. She'd dress them and I'd undress them.
I remember doing that too. I'd undress them and Nanny would dress them.
Teresa would play with her Barbies and dolls for hours.
And that was just not
Poke
Rachel's
needles
thing.
in my eye. All right, let's see. So this section is talking about your childhood home. You've talked a lot about your home and your neighborhood and stuff, and but how and where did your family spend time together?
On the farm. It was a family occupation.
Every day, all day.
Yeah, we didn't. The first time I remember leaving the farm was April of 1936. And my dad was, a counselor in the bishopric still, or was he the bishop? No, he was counselor. We had a gray Chevrolet coupe. And he picked up Mother at school and had me with him because I wasn't in school yet. And we drove down to Salt Lake for General Conference. And we stayed at Aunt Gwen's. And they took Jane and I to conference that morning. And we sat on the south side of the tabernacle on hard benches. And I remember Jane and I had some pennies, and we were matching pennies. And one of our adult parents who was with us told us that was not a thing we should be doing in conference.
For 2 6-year-olds.
And we were still 5. We hadn't gotten to our
it was
6th
April,
birthday
yeah.
yet.
Oh my goodness.
But President Grant was president of the church then.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first time to see and hear a prophet and to be in the tabernacle.
Do you remember anything about that? Aside from just being there?
I don't remember what anybody said. No. That was a long time ago.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Well, you're doing really
But I
good.
remember
Yeah.
the feeling.
That's awesome. So, how old were you when your family got like a telephone or a television?
Okay, my grandmother had a telephone at her house that you would ring to get the operator who was in Paris. My mother worked as a telephone operator in Paris after she graduated from high school, before she went to college.
What college did she go to?
Rick's.
Oh, that was a thing back then. Holy cow, that school is, I didn't realize it was that, it started that long ago. How old were you when you got a television? Or was that even later? That was when you were,
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
remember when they didn't have a television.
Yeah, we
you
were living
didn't have
on.
a television?
I can remember when
Grandma and Grandpa didn't?
Grandma and Grandpa Miller got a television.
Oh, okay.
When was that, Mom? In the late 60s?
We were living on Balsam Street when we got the first television.
When we got, you and
Yeah.
Mom got a television.
Uh-huh. And all there was on it was a test pattern forever.
The 56 Republican convention was on instead of my cartoons. Remember that?
He remembers
Said about
that. 1956. Those are some formative years, that
That's right.
5-6-year-old.
That's why he turned out so good. He didn't grow up with it from the time he was born.
Right? Exactly. No Saturday morning cartoons for you.
Well, I made up for it for him. I tell him we'll have conversations about all my cartoons that I watched on Saturday morning. Then he's always going, you watch a lot more TV than me.
I can tell you about early radio.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. What about it? What did you like about it?
I liked watching Let's Pretend on Saturday mornings.
Watching? Like listening to the program?
Listening
Okay.
to on the radio.
Let's pretend. What was that? Well,
It was
how
a
did that?
children's show.
Oh, fun.
But their sponsor was Cream of Wheat.
Oh.
And I can still sing the Cream of Wheat song.
You have to do this.
I don't sing very well, but I'll say the
That's
words,
fine.
okay?
Okay.
Cream of wheat is so good to eat, and we have it every day. It makes us strong, and we sing this song. Oh.
Hey, that's still pretty good.
And something, okay. It's good for growing children and grown-ups too to eat. For all the family breakfast, it must be cream of wheat.
Thank you.
Talk about marketing. You're like, we grow wheat in our backyard So, did you just grind it? You just probably ground it and eat it yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. We had it ground, the wheat ground at the mill. It was called germade.
So good. We ate that a lot growing up too. And now I have celiac disease, so yay. Do you remember any favorite books or?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, do you remember their names?
Uncle George and Aunt Frankie used to send me books for Christmas.
Oh, fun.
I remember the Bobbsey twins and several, started out with the Bobbsey twins and then the next one was the Bobbsey twins do whatever,
Mhm.
So I had several of those. When I was a little older, I remember The Cruise on the Boojum, which was about a group of young people, teenage maybe, who went on a cruise in the New England area. And I don't remember what all the others were. Little Women was one of them. And
Little House on the Prairie?
no, that was
not.
way
Yeah.
after
Oh,
I was.
okay.
So anyway, I looked forward to those Christmas packages from Ohio because
All we'd ever get is knitted mittens and slippers. But that's what the grandmother on my his mother, she would always make us mittens and slippers for Christmas every year.
It's good to have those in the winter time.
I did appreciate it. As I grew older, the more I appreciated them.
Okay, so this next question. Favorite childhood movies? Did you see a lot? I can't imagine that you spent a lot of time at the movie theater.
no, I don't know that I ever went to it with my family.
Was there even one in the area?
There was one in Montpelier.
There was, oh, okay.
But I don't remember when it started.
What's the first movie that you saw in a theater? Do you remember?
I don't.
I don't either. No, mine was Cinderella, wasn't it?
I can remember
Could have been.
I can remember the day when newsreels were always the first thing that you saw.
The talkies. What about music?
What about music?
Did you have a
I
piano?
love classical music.
Did you guys have a piano in your house when you were growing
Yes,
up?
we did, and I took lessons from my first piano teacher was my sister-in-law, Violet Barchi.
Oh, really?
She wasn't my sister-in-law
Well,
then.
sure.
She played for church meetings, and she was my first teacher. And then when I was in 3rd grade, our school teacher, my mother didn't teach. I think that's probably when Al was born. But, well, no, it wouldn't have been. But anyway, my mother wasn't teaching, and our school teacher was Afton Grunder, and she boarded with my grandma. Lived in her home while she taught us. She was there 2 years, 3rd and 4th grade, and she taught me piano while she lived there. And we went to see her. She moved back to Emmett, Idaho. And we went to see her when we went to the Seattle World's Fair. Do you remember stopping at her
I don't.
home?
Is that when they made the Space Needle? Was that the World Fair that year?
Yeah, right. It was brand new,
Cool.
and we ate there.
You did?
Yeah.
I
We
had
didn't
chocolate
even go
mousse
there.
for dessert.
Oh my goodness. Did it rotate then too?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't go when we went to Seattle a few years ago. It was closed they were doing some renovating, so we couldn't go up it. What about games or sports when you were little?
Well, I didn't do sports much until I was in high school. And we played softball. And I sort of had a love-hate relationship with the game after I slid into third base and broke my tailbone.
Oh, wow.
That would be hard. Most definitely.
But we did play church baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Did you play softball when you went to Utah State?
No. But there was a ball field in Liberty, and we played some church games there.
Was it a whole ward thing? Like each ward had a team,
Mm-hmm.
like they did with basketball? Good. What about hobbies? Did you have any hobbies when you were younger?
Not
Or
if there was
older?
a book I hadn't read around.
So books were your.
And I learned how to knit. My grandmother taught me to knit.
You did sewing too.
Oh
right?
yeah, I
Yeah.
took sewing classes in school and some after school. There was a gal in Pocatello who taught sewing on knits.
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember the suit I made for you out of one of mine? Little gray white pinstripe suit. You were so cute in it.
Oh, really? Yeah, I was cute back then.
Was he mischievous? Was Dad mischievous?
I don't think of him that way. He was just a sweet little boy.
Aww.
You just will be a baby boy.
I even loved him when he went around the neighborhood when he was 6 years old telling him that I was pregnant. We just wanted a baby so bad.
You just can't wait for a little sister. And then he gets a little sister. How'd that go over?
Oh, he was so sweet.
Oh, good. What was your relationship like with your siblings? So you're the oldest of 5?
Mm-hmm. And I'm mad at him for getting out of this life before I did.
Leaving you behind to fend for yourself?
Well, there's still one left. I've threatened Ted that he's to
Ted,
stay
yes.
till I'm gone.
Ted has his marching orders. You and Al was second,
Uh-huh.
right? And how were the two of you growing up?
Oh, we loved each other.
Did he play pranks on you?
You know, I don't remember him as being mischievous.
How about Ted?
Al's always been steady. You know, he did what he was told even while he was saying he wouldn't. You could depend on Al.
So Ted, he was the middle,
Uh-huh.
right? So was he mischievous at all?
No, that waited for Taft.
I can see that in Taft, yes.
Yeah,
And
Ted.
it always seems to be like it's his third or fourth kid, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's always the way it is.
Ted was he has a lot of, I don't know how to express this. He loved poetry. He still writes a good one every once in a while.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And He and Peggy are such good people.
Where do they live?
They live in just out of Rexburg, south, and
Oh,
Archer.
Archer.
yeah,
Oh.
they live on Archer Road.
Oh, I didn't know they lived in Idaho still.
Yeah, they're still there. They go to St. George for a couple of months in the wintertime, usually January and February.
Good. Get out of the snow. And so Taft was he rambunctious or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Taft. I remember one Sunday in sacrament meeting, we always sat on the second row on the left-hand side of the chapel. And that day he came in and planted himself on the front row on the right side. And Mother stage whispered to him, "Taft, come back here." And he said, "Why should I? Why should I?"
I'm comfortable here.
But he came.
Oh, I can see that look. And then Anne, the baby. How far apart were you and Anne?
13 years.
Oh, wow.
She was born the 3rd of April and I was born the 3rd of May.
Oh, fun.
13 years apart.
13 years apart. So you were probably gone for a lot of her growing up. Were you?
Yeah, she would have been, let's see, 17. She would have been 4 when I went to Utah State.
Yeah.
I remember she painted fingernail polish over one of my class pictures.
Oops.
That's probably the worst thing I could ever think of Ann doing. She was a good worker, and she helped my dad so much after the boys had gone.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I can remember Ann doing chores.
Yeah, I don't think she milked cows.
No,
But
she didn't.
But she helped my dad a lot.
And then when did your mom and dad move to Pocatello?
That was in, I don't remember the year.
It's the early 70s, 71, 72.
Yeah. Yeah, he sold the farm and they moved to Chubbuck. Had a nice house there. And then when they sold it, they moved a little farther into Chubbuck into an apartment.
I remember the apartment. And the wooden blocks in the closet. Every time we'd go to visit, Grandpa.
Oh, the wooden toy blocks.
The toy blocks, yeah. Grandpa would get the toy blocks out of the closet, and Mac and I would stack them. And Teresa would watch Grandma do her tatting, and she was always working on a new doily every time we came.
I have one of those over on my table.
Is that the one on your table?
Uh-huh.
How are you doing? Do you need a break?
No, I'm okay.
You doing okay? Do you want a glass of water?
No.
Okay.
But there's a Diet Coke out in the fridge.
Do you want a Diet Coke?
Somebody wanted to. It's one I've already started on, so you'll be able to tell which one it is. Well, you're acting like me, Grant.
He'll have surgery in September?
Let me go get that Coke.
October?
October.
He's gonna have knee replacement, yeah. All right, cost of living. This is gonna be fun. How much did these cost when you were growing up? Just from what you remember. Well, I don't know. So a gallon of milk. You guys probably
We didn't
had
buy
your-
milk.
Right. Do you remember though, like what food would have costed if you didn't go to the grocery store?
Thank you.
So your earliest recollection of buying a gallon of milk, what do you remember that?
I used to get it. Well, that was later on, but we would have been buying it when we lived in Conda. But I don't really remember.
Did you buy milk when you were going to college? Well, no, because you
No,
lived with
because
that
I
family.
lived with a family.
Okay, so when you got married to Grandpa, how much was milk?
You know, I don't have a clue.
Oh, come on.
17 cents.
No, it wasn't.
Could have been.
Again, maybe in the 50s. Like when around the time Dad was little.
It was around 25 cents.
For a
Did
whole
you buy-
gallon?
Did
Or
you
for
buy
half
it
a
in
gallon?
quarts, Mom, or
Yeah.
gallons? Because we got quarts.
I would imagine quarts were more. Or did the milkman bring milk?
Yeah, it was Roland's Dairy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They would just drop it off at your doorstep and then,
It was a milk crate that put it in the
yeah,
crate.
and then you'd like pay a monthly fee or.
I don't know how that
I
worked.
don't
Yeah.
remember.
You just pay the milkman a price every month. How about a movie ticket? Do you remember your movie tickets when you were?
5 cents.
You're just pulling that out of the air.
Oh,
Oh,
5 cents.
really?
No, it's. I don't remember. What runs in my mind is a quarter, 25 cents.
Okay, then 5 cents for the popcorn.
5 cents for the candy bar.
Yeah.
Popcorn.
A new car. Did you ever buy a new car?
Mm-hmm.
I guess there probably weren't a lot of used cars back then.
Yeah, everybody was using their cars.
I wish I could remember what we paid for that Datsun. You remember that yellow Datsun, Grant?
Mm-hmm.
No,
You remember that Datsun?
did you
Grant?
remember?
No, I was thinking of the other one,
Oh.
the orange one.
Oh, when did we get that?
Well, I don't know, but we drove it to Arizona. We took Grandma and Grandpa down to see Uncle George and Aunt Frankie in it. Where did we leave you?
Maybe he was home with Grandma.
Well, I think the earliest car I remember is the Henry Ford, the Henry J.
The Henry J.
Yeah,
Was blue and white, wasn't it?
was it? I don't remember.
What's a Henry J?
It was a Kaiser company car. The Kaiser company built it. Or the Fraser company.
Maybe Fraser.
Henry J. Fraser was the.
Oh, okay. Is that a Scottish company? What was your first paying job?
My first paying job. I don't think I had a job before I went to college.
We had that job picking strawberries that one
Oh,
summer.
yeah, that's right.
Did you do
That
anything
would have been the
before that?
first one, I
Oh,
guess.
okay. How much were you
Well,
paid?
actually, I did some babysitting
Oh, well, yeah.
when I was
But for
younger.
the strawberries, how were you paid? By the bushel?
By the pound, I think it was.
Do you remember how much he paid you guys?
But it seems to me that I earned $60 for the season.
Was that a lot of money back
6
then?
weeks. Yeah, it bought my school clothes.
Was that
A
the first?
green tweed skirt and a light green sweater set.
Oh, cute.
And I don't know what else, but I remember.
Was that the first time that your mom hadn't made your school clothes? Or had you been, really?
Yeah, I think so.
That's fun. If you could go back in time to relive any moment in your life, what would it be and why? Like to re-experience a moment.
Probably my first time to go to the temple.
Oh. What temple did you go through?
Idaho Falls.
That was right before you were married?
It was the day I was married. You did it all in one day then.
That's a long day.
Yes, and it was much longer then than it is now.
Oh, seriously? Oh, I guess they didn't have a movie back then, huh?
Nope.
Why would you want to do that day over again? I mean, I can anticipate your answer, but I just want to hear it from you.
Well, it was a life-changing experience. And it's hard to remember what impact the endowment part of it had on me at that time.
I was just trying to hang on,
But
not knowing what a lot of it meant. So I was trying to. Nanny told me when I went through, Nanny told me, now just listen, you don't have to remember it all right now, but you will. So eventually there's a test.
Do you have any other memories from that day?
yeah, I remember staying in the hotel the night before with my parents. And
That must have been fun.
going to the temple, I remember the people who were there. Vernon, his parents had stayed in Shelley with Violet. His sister Violet was living in Shelley then. And I remember going to her house, and Joyce was sitting in a bushel basket that had been lined. And then, and my Grandma1 stayed with us in the hotel. So she was there, and I don't remember if my Grandma Miller was there.
That would have been Albert's mom.
Uh-huh.
Right?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, your mom was there.
And my mom and dad. And then one of my dad's cousins, a Crossley cousin, I can't think of his first name now, but he lived up in that area. And I always thought it was nice of them to come, he and his wife. I am grateful that I went to the temple all those years ago and experienced what the endowment session was like then. I think we were at the temple at least 3 hours, maybe more. It was very different than it is now. The things we wore, don't know how much I should really describe that. So
It's okay. I bet that was a very.
But we sang a hymn as part of the endowment session back then
Oh, cool.
for several years. It was a long time before any of that changed, and I've seen a lot of changes.
I bet.
About the endowment ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, let's change gears a little bit. Talking about. Okay. So, what does success mean to you?
What does
Success.
success?
Mm-hmm.
Being able to have peace of mind.
Ooh, that's a good one. Who are some people that you believe are successful?
I think my parents were very successful because of the things they believed and the way they lived. And
The way they were able to raise the 5 of you.
because they knew what was important and what wasn't. I think part of being successful is being obedient.
Mm-hmm.
And that knowing what's important and doing it doesn't have anything to do with money or what's popular in the time you live in.
How do you feel like you've been successful?
Well, the first way I can tell is by the way my children live.
Yeah.
I think I've learned so much over the years of things that would have made me a better parent. And if I were to do it again, I know all sorts of things I could do that I didn't. But when I think that my children are all grounded in the gospel and have raised good families, then I know I must have done something right along the way. And I'm so grateful for it.
On that note, what was it like to become a mother? And what are some of the very first memories of your children?
Becoming a mother was scary.
Hmm? Yeah. I'd say that.
But it was also wonderful. Have this little person who depended on you and who presented all sorts of challenges.
You could put it that way.
I remember my first trip into the doctor's office with this new little boy. And my doctor's father, who was also a doctor, was in and looked at him and said, "He's kind of scrawny, isn't he?" And I was so proud of this scrawny little boy.
Hey, I've kept him alive. That has to be worth something.
We've had some challenging times, but we've come through them. We still love each other.
That's good. You're still taking care of each other.
Yeah.
So there was a time in between Dad and Sharon. So
and that was hard because we wanted a baby so badly.
Did you have
Tried
miscarriages
everything.
Or you
What?
just did you have miscarriages or you just didn't
No,
get
nothing
pregnant?
between.
Nothing happened.
The miscarriages all came after Ruth Ann.
Oh. didn't know that.
at 3.
What? I had no idea. I just thought Ruth Ann was the baby and that was it. I didn't know you guys were still
I
trying.
had 3 miscarriages after.
How far along were you with each one?
One of the touching things I remember about that time was we were living on Rosewood, of course, and I had been sitting in the chair in the living room just kind of weeping. Ruth Ann, who was probably 3 years old, came up to me and handed me her doll and said, "Here, Mama, don't cry. You can have my baby."
Oh my gosh.
I've never forgotten that. In fact, I wrote a poem about it.
Does she remember that?
I don't know if she does.
Well, I'm gonna tell her. That's really sweet. So, how was it having a boy and he was what, almost 10?
He was 8 and a half.
Almost 9. And then you had a girl baby. How was that? The difference of growing a son, essentially, and then now having a brand new baby girl.
Well, instead of making shirts, I started making frilly little clothes.
Frilly dresses. Did she like to be dressed up?
Yeah, she did.
And then how far apart are Sharon and Carolee?
They're 18 months.
Oh, okay. And then Ruth
And then
Ann,
there's 3 years.
3 years in between them.
And that was hard for Carolee. She enjoyed being the baby.
She reminds me a lot of Teresa.
Ruth, and having a third girl was hard on Vern.
Oh, dang it.
How's that?
He wanted another boy.
Oh,
And when
why?
And when Ruth Ann was born, he said, "Girls, girls, girls."
All the frills. Well, by the time Ruth Ann was born, you were what? Almost out of high school?
No,
So-
No, I was 13.
13.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, so he probably just wanted to redo the boy stuff again. That's funny.
But I kind of cheated because the whole time I was pregnant with Ruth Ann, I prayed for a girl.
Oh, that's clever. Okay, speaking of being pregnant or having kids, what are some of the things that are some more modern conveniences that we have now that you wish you would have had when you were raising babies?
Disposable diapers.
Oh my goodness, I bet.
That's easy.
Oh boy, I remember those diapers.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. What else?
I don't know. It was good that I was able to nurse the girls better than I was able to nurse Grant.
Did you have to supplement formula with Dad?
Oh yeah. And finding one that he wasn't allergic to.
Oh, dang it.
But we got him through it.
Good deal. I remember one thing that I didn't have with Eliza that I got when I had Lydia was a sling. Well, it was a wrap that
yeah.
you wrapped around you so you could have the baby like right on your
Mhm.
chest, but then keep your hands free. So that was nice. Did you have something like that?
No.
Just holding them on your hip?
Yeah.
What would you do if they were really fussy?
You bounced
Just
and you
keep
walked.
holding- Same stuff, I guess. All right. What was your favorite holiday to celebrate when your children were growing up? And what were some holiday traditions that you had?
Oh, it would have to be Christmas. Did we have holiday traditions, Grant? Christmas traditions? I mean, this.
We go see the lights.
Yeah.
On Temple Square? Or where?
No,
Around
we were
town.
Oh,
in
like
Idaho.
on the houses.
No, we didn't go to Salt Lake.
Just the Christmas lights on people's houses.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Do you have a favorite Christmas dish that you would make every year?
Christmas soup.
What's that?
We always had that for Christmas Eve. Oh, it's this wonderful rich. It has hamburger, carrots, and potatoes, and tomato juice, and you thicken it and then add milk to it.
That does sound
It's a
good.
cream of vegetable kind of thing. Made with hamburger, and Carol Lee still has it on Christmas.
On Christmas
for
Eve?
Christmas Eve.
Really?
It was a recipe of my mother's.
What about Thanksgiving? Any favorite Thanksgiving dishes that you guys made every year? Whether
Just the traditional ones. You know, the stuffing and several different versions of sweet potatoes.
like your mom made multiple dishes of sweet potatoes, or
Well, no, my mom pretty much did just the ones with the marshmallows on them. And but I have a recipe for sweet potatoes and apples that I really like.
oh, I remember that.
And
That's good.
now we pretty much have reverted to the mashed sweet potatoes with nuts and
With the pecans on
pecans
top.
on
Oh,
top.
so good. Yeah, I do that one too.
And pumpkin pies, of course.
What about Easter? Is Easter a big deal around your place growing up?
You know, I don't remember my mother's Easter dinner, if we had a traditional one.
You probably didn't have the Easter bunny then. Was that probably wasn't a thing back then, was it?
I think maybe it was.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, fun. Would you hide eggs or hide little toys or hide, was anything hidden?
No, it was more just an Easter basket with treats in it.
Oh, fun. Okay, list times when your own children did something that drove you crazy or that tested family rules. We can start with Dad.
Did you violate family rules, sweetheart?
I don't think he did.
Never did. Perfect child.
He
Never?
really was a good boy.
Never stayed out late?
Never sat in the car with his girlfriend a little too long.
Shut up.
How about Sharon?
Sharon's never been a rule breaker. She's pretty self-controlled. None of my kids were really rule breakers. They were good kids. They still are.
Mm-hmm. So nothing ever drove you crazy?
Oh, I suppose it did.
You just don't. It doesn't stand out. What about, did anyone like track mud onto clean floors or playing out in the yard and get dirty and then come inside and sit on your clean couch or something? I don't know, I'm just thinking of random possible scenarios.
I bet when Carolee got in the chocolate syrup when you were getting ready for church.
Oh yeah, that was
You remember
a
that
fun
one, huh?
Easter. That was Easter morning, and I got them all dressed in their dresses that I'd made for them. They were yellow with white lace trim, and that's what happened. She got in a bottle of something that was under the sink. I can't think why I'd have something like that under the sink. But that's what happened. I went to get dressed and came back, and she'd gotten in this bottle of something, and I was on the program that day, and my topic was the joys of being a mother. So that fit nicely into my talk.
Did she wear the dirty dress to church, or did you have her change?
I'm sure I changed her. I wouldn't have taken her to church in a dirty dress.
Well, then they were matching. I don't know. What other stories do you have to throw your sisters under the bus, Dad? I'll let you think about that. Holler at me.
What did you do when Carolee crashed the car into the Smith's grocery store?
First of all, it wasn't the car, it was a truck.
Oh yeah.
A big orange Chevrolet truck.
Oh.
And I felt sorry for her.
I know. She was so upset.
And her dad told her she couldn't drive, which I didn't agree with, but I didn't say anything.
She needed some time away from the car.
Was it because it was a stick shift? Is that what she was having problems with?
I don't remember.
No, it was an automatic.
Oh, was it?
Anyway,
So, with your children or grandchildren, how have you shown love to your children or grandchildren, or signs of affection? Do you shower them with gifts? Do you praise their success? Maybe you gently encourage them to do their best, or have a special tradition just between you?
one of the traditions that meant a lot to me, and I hope it meant something to them, was taking them on a trip when they turned 13. That was just so neat to be able to do that.
I know
That
my
was
kids all
fun.
look forward to that.
It was just one of the good things I did. I hope it meant something to them. you were Jackson Hole, weren't you?
Uh-huh.
You, and that was Mac too.
Yeah, you took him to Jackson Hole, and I said, I want to go there. So.
And there's something that happened that weekend that I've always remembered and just had to smile about.
With
And
me
that
or
was
Mac?
With Mac.
What was it?
When we went to dinner, and I don't remember what the name of the restaurant was, but we went in and sat down and looked at the menus, and Mac said, Grandma, could I have a steak? And I said, sure you can. Isn't that funny? That's what I think about when I think of Mac and that trip.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember anything from your trip?
Not specifically. Just I remember the car ride and talking, and there wasn't a radio. Well, I mean, like radio reception a lot, so we just talked.
Yeah.
But
We went to a play, didn't we?
oh, that's right. Not the play mill, but the other. They had like a play mill, right? Over in Jackson, not the one in West Yellowstone, but they
Yeah.
had one. Yeah. I'm gonna have to get my journal out and read about that. It's kind of embarrassing that you remember, and I didn't. But that's okay.
And Teresa, we went to the Lehman Caves in Nevada, in the Railroad Museum there.
Wow.
Yeah, she really enjoyed that too.
Yeah, she did. She thought that was
That's
a real
cool.
special time.
But I did something on that trip that I've always been ashamed of.
What's that?
We went, it was Nevada.
Did you play some penny slots?
Yeah, that was it. And then I thought that wasn't a good example to set for a grandchild.
Oh, that's
I think
hilarious.
it was in a drugstore, they were
No,
they were in everywhere you went. And
She's been a
I had a little bit of
reception.
change put in there. And
Did she do it too?
No, she didn't have any money. I
Oh.
don't think.
I don't think she's ever gambled.
That's never been her thing, I don't think.
Yeah.
And then it was Zach and Amanda. They decided they wanted to have theirs together.
Where'd you take them?
I took them to California to San Diego.
Where'd you go to the
We went to the
aquarium?
The zoo?
the what?
The aquarium, didn't San Diego have the big,
They have a zoo.
I know, don't they have?
We
the
went to the
aquarium?
zoo
Oh, SeaWorld is probably what you're
SeaWorld.
and to SeaWorld, and I let them pick the seats in the water show
Uh-huh.
thing, and of course they went right down
To
into the
Brad.
splash zone. And I put I don't know what kind of electronics I had at that time. Anyway, I kept it all dry, and I enjoyed the splash with those two monkeys. We came out of there dripping wet, but we dried out.
Where did you take Doug?
I took Doug to southern Utah. He had read some books about that area. We went on the way down, or was it on the day after we got there? I don't remember. We went to the Brigham Young home there. And then we went out to the Enterprise Dam and there are some holy rocks down there that he had read a book about that area.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wanted to go to those, and it was a place where people had hid from, I don't know if it was from the Indians or what kind of marauders, but they could hide themselves in these holes in the rock. And he was able to climb up into some of those rocks.
And that's in the St. George area?
Yeah, it's out north and west
Oh,
of St.
cool.
George. There's a Pioneer Dam out there that's made of rock. The Enterprise Dam. And then the Holy Rocks, they're called.
Well, should we take a break and go get lunch?
Yeah. We'll do
That
that.
sounds like a good idea.